Gene, I'll say this. Sorry, Mike. Gene, Mike. I'll say this one.
No. I don't. My internet always goes out. I wouldn't even know if I got cut off.
So yeah, the floor is yours, brother.
All right.
Introduce yourself, because a lot of people don't know you.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Alex may have name dropped me already, but just as a fresh reminder, my name is Michael. I am the president of Black Student Union here. I'm also a digital art design student. I own my own brand, and I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Keep an open mind. Break out your notebooks, pens, paper. I will ask that you, any questions, just hold them till I open the floor for the group to ask questions. And hope you guys enjoy yourselves. Thank you again. So, are you gonna do it? Cool. So we're here with our guests tonight. I will allow them to introduce themselves, starting from this way, if you don't mind.
All right. Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Jean Perpillant. That is French for Jean Perpillant in English. I am the founder of Design Theory. It is a small boutique web design and business strategy and photography company that I started, which will be 10 years today. Oh no, 10 years this year actually. And it is, like I said, a small boutique outfit between myself, my wife, our partners, and we have a couple developers and designers on staff that we create websites for small businesses. Our ideal clients are, small mom and pop shops, entrepreneurs that are looking to kind of get started with, an online presence. Like I said, I've been doing this for a little over 10 years. Something that I enjoy doing. I started off doing computer repair. I went to school for it, got my degrees in it and everything like that. And then once I got into design, because of the change in the way the world was, and so instead of getting a custom computer built, now you just go to Walmart and buy one. I just decided, well, maybe websites is the way to go. And it's been a great creative outlet for me, as well as photography. And haven't looked back. It's been great. That's pretty much my story.
All right. My name is Mike Felix. I'm from South Florida. I came up here to go to school. My parents, they're from the islands. They said, don't come back unless you're an engineer, doctor, something like that. So always loved technology. That's what actually got me up here. And I studied engineering at UCF. And so I did everything right. I went to school, got a job, but I kept getting bored. So as an engineer here in Orlando, you kind of get programmed to work for some of the big companies like the Lockheed Martins, the NASA's, the Department of Defense. And so I did all of that. But then I started to do stuff on the side. I had my little side hustle. And I also started to design websites. So I made my first $500 website and I got excited. Then I made my first $1,000 website, then I got excited. I made my first $10,000 website, I got excited. Then I made my first $50,000 website and I was like, oh, okay, cool, I'm out. So that's when I left corporate America, and I was like, yeah, this isn't really, not for me. And so ever since then, I've always been involved in working with small businesses. So outside of my business, working with other entrepreneurs, I also started a couple different groups, one of them being the Black-owned Business Orlando group. We have about 12,000 highly engaged folks on Facebook and other social platforms. I also started a group here in Orlando called Black Orlando Tech, where we're trying to create this entrepreneurial / startup community focused and centered on, of course, an underrepresented groups, African Americans in technology and entrepreneurship. And I was also involved in rechartering the National Society of Black Engineers here in Central Florida. So that's me in a box. My partner, my business partner, he studied neuromarketing and neurolinguistics. He likes to use the big words. Me, I'm like, sales. So that's me in a nutshell.
Hello everyone, my name is Jasmine Burney Clark. I am an Orlando native, born and raised right here. I am a graduate of the Great Whitfield-Cookman University in Daytona Beach and a graduate of Florida A&M University in Tallahassee. I am a full-time civic engagement professional. So I am currently the executive director of what's called State Voices Florida. We provide political opportunities for 60 political nonprofits across the state of Florida. So from Tallahassee to Miami, we provide them with data and technology support. We provide them with fundraising and resources. We make sure that they work collaboratively, they support each other in their initiatives across the state, and we make sure that we maintain a community that allows them to lean on each other. In addition to that, I am also the founder of Chicks in Politics. It's an online space for Black women working in politics and Black women involved in civic engagement. So I engage them through social networking as well as activation events. I also keep them up to date on all things political and all things Black women. So anything that is involved with a Black woman working in politics, whether at the highest level of the rank or a staffer in an office, I am uplifting and sharing that sort of information. As we know, Black women are the highest voting bloc in the entire nation, and this has been documented since Barack Obama's election. We are winning races across the nation and are seeing this in every state. And we hope that Florida becomes one of the next states that certainly shores up how Black women support candidates and uplift our communities in leading in a lot of these elections across the state.
Awesome. One of the things I forgot to say, let's give our guests a round of applause for attending tonight. So, the goal tonight is to have a conversation. Very open. Alex already warned most of us that we want to get to the nitty gritty. So the first question would be, when you started your business, what did you start out with any capital? What steps did you take to start your business financially?
Sure. So let me give you my second business as an example, because my first business started with nothing. It came out of my desire to, my talent of fixing computers, and it just happened where it's like, oh, Gene fixes computers. Tell Gene to, call Gene and he'll do this, that, and the third. And so it was like family and friends that were calling me and referring me, and then it got to the point where I was like, all right, I've got all this money where I'm fixing computers left and right. I've got to do something with it. So I started a business there, did it as a sole proprietor. This was in Florida, which was nice because at the time, this was what, 05 or 04? You could do a lot of this stuff online. So, and now almost everything you can do online. So I did that there, but really I want to fast forward to my second business because I think that was more pivotal for me. I started that one when I moved to Connecticut, and after, I'd say about a year or two, I had someone who wanted to join in and be a partner. And so I've never had a partner before, and I figured, well, it's not a bad idea, why not? He can help me out, he does web design like I do, he had some resources, and he wanted to buy in. And so I decided to go ahead and do that, and after about 6 months in, I started to realize that I'm doing more work than they were doing, or that he was doing. And so eventually I realized, and also I started having babies, and I'm in and out of the hospital and doing all this stuff at the same time at the hospital, working on a client website. My wife's on a bed, and and he's over at home doing nothing. And fast forward even more to where I just realized that wasn't really a good idea for me. And so I dissolved that company, and that's when I started Design Theory. All of this, from the beginning to the end, I started with no capital. It was just my initiative. It was like, okay, what can I learn on my own? I researched, I got books from the library, I saved money, so money that I was making from my day job, I went out and saved that, put aside, bought a laptop used, bought some software, and just learned on my own. And the more business that I made, and I was just taking business left and right. I was like, all right, you want a website for $500? Cool. You want a website for $700? Cool. You want a website for whatever. Just so that way I could, one, learn, and two, start making money that didn't have to take out of my family's pocket to then start it. Now, again, fast forward to now, where all of the expense that we have for the business is all through the business, and very little comes from us. If anything, we try to supplement, our expenses through the business, so that way it makes more sense when I'm out, at events like this, or I'm out at client meetings and not at home, or not, at the baseball game with my son, or not, taking my family out to dinner, because, it still makes sense, around the way. But you can start it with nothing, depending on what kind of business that you're doing. If it's a product business, you probably are gonna wanna, have some kind of funding, maybe from borrowing from friends and family to develop the product and get a prototype, and then, maybe sell the idea, and then you can move on. But if it's a service-based business like what I did, you pretty much just need whatever your core materials are. Maybe it's software, maybe it's a computer, and then you service the heck out of yourself until you can pay for what you need.
I didn't start with any capital, really, but I was always good at sales. So how many of you consider yourself to be good at sales? Awesome. So you guys probably would never need capital. How many are not good in sales? You guys need to find some guy. Primarily because Grant Cardone says it best. He says, "Who has my money?" And the way that sales works, a lot of people get very shy about like asking people for money. But what it really is, it's I'm giving you value and you're giving me money in exchange for that value. So I'm sort of, money's just standardizing something that's valuable. So if I can measure what your return would be from working with me, then I can tell you how much I'm going to charge you. So that's how I came out of the gate. So if I spoke to a business owner and I said, hey, if I build this website for you, if I do my job right, how much money do you think you're going to make? Oh, about maybe 50,000. I'm like, okay, cool, maybe 4. Like that's just how I sold. So they look at it not as a lot of money, they look at it as, well, my return on investment is gonna be, it's $1 in, $10 out. So I never really had to, and just like John said, like, we don't run, in digital design and marketing and stuff like that, there's not really a lot of overhead initially. If I wanted to buy a website template, that's $50, you know? So my overhead was always low, didn't really have to start with capital, was never manufacturing anything, so I'm fortunate in that respect. But after a while, when we did start to do things that required some type of infusion of capital, we sold first by validating, and then we bought. So if I'm gonna sell you, let's say like one of our projects was this enterprise level software for a very large corporation here in Central Florida. We sold first, they paid the deposit first, then we bought the equipment and stuff. You know, we didn't buy the equipment and then sell it. We're like, no, you pay us first, and then, you know, we wouldn't pay for whatever we had to do.
So just to add to a bit of what they've already shared, my product was a little bit different. When I started in my industry of working in politics, I didn't necessarily have a product or a physical service. I was selling my brain power to candidates and to clients that I was working with. And he's correct. If you're not good in sales, you are going to need capital. My very first campaign I worked on, I had to become a fundraiser. And I had to cold call individuals and sell my client to these individuals so that they would help raise this money for my candidates so that one, she could continue to pay me, and two, she could continue to over-communicate her message to candidates across the state. And over the period of 6 months, I raised $30,000 just by cold calling people I'd never seen or spoken to. And I had to become very comfortable with selling that product, that candidate. And eventually, once I left that campaign, I was able to venture out on my own and selling myself to individuals. Number one, being able to raise $30,000 over the phone to people who did not know you was extremely difficult. So I knew that I could do some other things beyond that point. And so I packaged my services and provided clients with political operations and was able to work on a number of different campaigns. One of those campaigns was electing the first African-American senator from Central Florida, Senator Geraldine Thompson, and then also working on her re-election campaign as well. I was a fundraiser for her, I was a campaign assistant for her, and worked on a number of different individual projects on her campaign. So it was definitely difficult, but I didn't have capital. It wasn't something I needed, thank God. But eventually, when I wanted to launch Chicks in Politics, I needed a website, I needed a logo, I needed certain things, so I took the money that I had made from working on my campaign to infuse that brand by buying shirts, by buying mugs, by being able to travel and talk to people about different political issues. So I was able to use my full-time job that still allowed me to work in the same industry to fund what was a passion project.
My next question is, and I'm going to be kind of bouncing around because as you're building a brand, like there's so much that goes into it, and like I said, the point here is to get realistic and let's get to the nitty gritty, the meat and potatoes. As you were building your brand when you first started, what were some of the obstacles aside from the financials that you came in contact with? Like, were there any points where you felt like, okay, this isn't for me? Like, can you give any tips on for those that are starting to build their brands and those that have established a brand on how to overcome certain obstacles?
I think for me, one of the bigger things was a legal obstacle. Software, there's so much that's out there now where you can kind of jump into for free. If anything, use for free before you actually have to pay for it, which I think is a huge advantage. Whereas when I started, I didn't know, and so I could spend a couple $100 on buying a piece of software, use it for a little while, and realize this doesn't do anything that I needed to do, and I ended up losing my money. So I'll get to software in a second. The legal side of things is probably one of the more important things that I didn't know, that I ended up learning, not necessarily the hard way, but through some trials and errors. What I have now is we have a lawyer through a prepaid legal program, which is pretty ineffective, right? I think it's anywhere between $15 to $30 a month, where all of our documents and contracts, before they get sent out, get approved to them. They review it and they send it out. And if they have any questions, or if I have any questions, they send it out for me. And then if I ever have to go to litigation, I have a certain spend or certain type of discount that I have with them, where if I do have to go to litigation, I still have to pay an actual lawyer and whatnot, a team or whatever, but it's less than what it would be if I had to just go out there and go shop for a lawyer. So that just using that, I think it's Legal Shield is what the company is. And I've had an account with them for several years. I've never had to actually act up on it, which is great, but depending on the business, you never know, right? But at the beginning, especially when you're creating something for people to give off to them, you're responsible, right? And so if I'm creating a website, and I'll give you an example, I'm creating a website for somebody, and I say, okay, well, you have to give me all your content, whether your graphics, your text, and whatever you want for the pages, and I'm going to design that and put it together for you. Well, I had somebody who had some content that wasn't theirs, and so put it together, put it on the website, and then I don't know, within a couple months, I actually got a letter in the mail from a company that was like, hey, this content isn't yours. You need to take it down, and after you take it down, we're gonna you need to pay us $3,000. It was a graphic site. Per image, because this is where it is, this is where you're using it on the website, and you need to pay us for it because you have a business website. And I was shocked, right? Because I'm like, I don't have $3,000, and I don't even know what you're talking about, right? I didn't use it. So I actually had to go through some channels where it's like, all right, well, this is really your problem as the client, and you need to deal with this. And they did, but that first hit was with me, right? And so I would say to anybody coming out the gate, a lot of times we try to kick some of these bigger things down the road for like, we'll deal with it when it happens. Don't. If you're dealing with something where, like we do, where you're creating something for a client and you're giving it off to them, you're going to seem somewhat responsible because you're the custodian of their, in terms of websites, you're the custodian of their domain, of their hosting, of their, of all of these things, right? Their files, and you're the first line of defense. And if they would have got the letter, they probably still would have came to me and said, hey, what are they talking about? And I'd be like, no. Now, as a result of that, I had to go and I got a legal team and I got I got an actual contract that was, legit, to where it specified like, hey, all this content that's on here is your content. If anything comes back to me, you're responsible for it. You're gonna be liable for any of these things. And so I had to learn that kind of the hard way. And so I make sure that I had that airtight in my contract. So that, I would say, again, legal, get that first.
As you started building, no, you're fine. I'm gonna keep it simple. Like, what are some of the harder things that you've been through as you were building your brand? What are some of the obstacles that you came across? For Gene, it was legal. What about you? Especially in the creative industry. I mean, feel free to speak out of turn too.
Well, he's thinking about it.
Yeah.
So, as you know, I work in the field of politics, and what we are seeing right now is actually no different than what I was experiencing when I started in this industry. The heightened level of security, the heightened level of making sure that people protect their personal brands and their images, or there will be a petition, a protest, a march, something to tear or bring you down is nothing new. It is just the age of social media and amplification that is bringing it to the forefront. And so my job has always been standing in front of individuals and protecting my client or my candidate and making sure that their brand is legal, their brand is compliant, their brand is in order, because if not, someone could file an ethics complaint against you. And an ethics complaint against you could completely end your political career and your campaign, which means that your staff have to suffer, your brand now suffers, your community could suffer as a result of you not being legally compliant within whatever the laws are for your state. But then let's talk about the personal and ethical side. What you were doing in your personal time is also a factor that could be an obstacle or a challenge to your brand. And keeping it clean is not just something we want to do in front of the cameras. We want to make sure that taxes are being filed. We want to make sure that, you know, we are having proper business relationships with individuals. We want to make sure that, you know, we are handling our personal business in the same manner that we would anything else and not being sloppy about it. Like you said, it's easy to brush something off towards the end and say, well, I'll deal with it later. Deal with it correctly up front. And there are all sorts of opportunities and tools like Legal Shield, finding you some low-cost accountant could also be an opportunity for your business when you're starting out in this field. When I started out, I was a contractor, so my tax status was a bit different from everyone else's. I didn't get a W-2 and then go into, you know, Uncle Sam and get a huge refund. No, I have to pay the government back, and I'm still, you know, in a different tax status because of the work that I do. So I have to make sure that my finances are always in order. You always want to make sure that you're saving for a rainy day. You never know what could come up, and I can't stress enough, taxes are the number one thing that you must stay compliant with. And a lot of candidates get in trouble when they don't pay their home taxes, they don't pay, you know, business taxes, they don't, you know, pay those sort of things that we don't think about, and it feels like a burden when you're going through the process, and it's a huge check when you receive it, but you forget someone also has to get a cut of that check when it's time for them to get a cut. So I would say those are some of the challenges that I've seen with some of my candidates, and not just my candidates, with other candidates getting ready to either run for office or do something political. And again, the internet, social media over amplifies what you're experiencing, and people go into hiding after things like this. So it's some real serious stuff to take into consideration.
So yeah, I've been through the legal stuff, so I won't touch on that anymore. How many? Am I talking to a room full of aspiring entrepreneurs? Everybody wants to own their own business, thinking about it. Most of the awesome. So most of the time, and I'll talk about my a struggle I've had, and it's an odd struggle. So most people choose entrepreneurship for a couple different reasons, but one of the reasons I think I started out wanting to be an entrepreneur was to escape something. So most people, they get these jobs and they're working, and I want to make more money, and then like you say, I want to be an entrepreneur because you want to escape something, which is the wrong reason to be an entrepreneur. But when you do jump out, what happens is, like I fell into, my struggle was always falling into a level of complacency. So like, it happens to me now. I'll talk to people that want to be an entrepreneur. I'm like, how much do you need to make? And what they start doing, they start counting up their bills. My rent's $1,000, my car's $500. I need to make $2,000 a month. I'm like, what? $2,000 a month? Really? Like, so what I fell into was I pursued entrepreneurship, but I made the money I needed, and then I relaxed. Then I made the money I needed, then I relaxed. And what that put me right back into is this. When I was working as an engineer, I had one boss. Right now, I have 40. So think about this. When you have clients, all of them are your boss. You just have more job security. Like 3 clients could say, like, go screw yourself, and I would be like, okay, cool, that's it. I still can pay my rent, you know? But I made more job security by pursuing entrepreneurship, but at the same time, I didn't solve the problem that made me want to do it in the first place. I was literally just subsidizing my expenses a different way. So now, like, I would say late last year, this year, I'm like evolving outside of that struggle by actually creating what's considered to be a business, right? So I'm now starting to see some type of scalability to my business, and I'm coming out of this shell of, like, I'm doing this just to make money. I'm doing it because I believe my purpose is to genuinely be able to help entrepreneurs create some pathway to, you know, exhibiting what they should be doing in their business. So.
Okay. This is a question for the creatives. How do you manage? Because I know I deal with this personally. How do you manage creativity and business savvy. I think one of the problems artists have, right, that whole title term artist exists because, and when I say artists, I mean like music industry, videographers, photographers, whatever your craft is what I mean when I say artists. One of the problems I noticed is that a lot of people, artists, focus more on their craft and lack in the business. How did you gentlemen manage to find the balance between the two?
Yeah, charge more.
Charge more.
No, seriously. That's literally like and the reason I say it that way is because like you can't like let's say like we're all creatives, right?
Right.
You can't go to that conference that's going to teach you advanced, let's say Adobe skills if you can't afford to go. You can't go to some of these meetups that cost $50 per session if you can't afford to go. You can't get to your client's office that's in Daytona if your car can't get you there, right? So in order to afford to build up who you are, you have to be able to charge your clients and have, actually, here's another thing too, right? When it comes to creatives, I think we use the word charge too much and fees and bill and payment. I don't use those words, I use the word investment. So if somebody's doing business with me, that's why I say that I'm in sales, because whatever, like let's say I'm working on a branding project, my sale would be, your target market would appreciate visually what we're creating more. I can't measure it right now, but the assumption I'm making is they'll appreciate it more, so my assumption would be that you're gonna make 2-3 times what it would be if you don't spend the time branding yourself. So then if I can quantify how much more they would make, then I can define how much I should be valued. And so I have them invest more because I'm able to at least quantify what it is that I'm bringing to the table.
Now, I'm sorry, Jim, before you go. I'm sure in the beginning it was uncomfortable for you to charge more. How did those conversations go down?
No, there wasn't.
They weren't. They just
No, that's serious. How much was Full Sail shy about telling you guys how much?
No, not at all.
Shit, like Full Sail's not, they're like no one's bartering it. If you go to the Tesla website, and look at the new Roadster. They're like, oh, you want to test drive it? Cool. Give me your credit card information. It's $5,000. Like, in the society we live in right now, your confidence in what you're bringing to the table is what's selling. Not to say it's not your work, but you can validate yourself, and you could ask for forgiveness later. But validate yourself through the confidence that you're exuding, and when you get paid that, make sure you bring that to the table. If you don't, then yeah, you're in trouble. So if you charge somebody 10 grand for a website and you're making websites on Wix, that's your fault. That's your fault. If you're charging, $1,000 for a flyer and you're making stuff in like Paint, I don't even know if Paint still exists. That's your fault, right?
Yeah.
But if you're gonna charge that, because here's the other thing too. I noticed early on it was a numbers game. In my career, I started off as an engineer, and then I took a little stint as a financial advisor. And those financial advisors, that sales training program is like dumb stupid. Like it is like, yo, how many people have you spoken to? I don't see any clients in here. Why aren't you in the field? Go to the coffee shop. Go walk down the street, all I care. Go talk to people. And so I've always seen it as a numbers game. You want to make more money, talk to more people. Even if you're on social media, you want to make more money, talk to more people. Get in their instant message, get in their inboxes. Talk to people. Oh, you want to make
DMs.
Yes.
For the right reasons.
Talk to people. So since I always saw it as a numbers game, if I asked 10 people for $10,000 and one person gives it to me, that's easier than me making $1,000 from 10 people. I don't need a 100% success rate. I'll go down the line and find somebody that's willing, or at least in their eyes, I'm validated to be able to do the work, and then I prove myself later.
Let me jump in there. So that's a loaded question, right? And I love Mike's confidence because he's absolutely right. You have to have a level of confidence when you're stepping out to even the first person, the same, if not better confidence when you speak to the 100th person, right? That means a lot because when you're sitting down with them and they've called you, they've emailed you, or they're having coffee with you, they're kind of sizing you up, right? It's no different than dating, right? Because a lot of times you're going to be in a relationship with this person, professionally, and they're kind of going to size you up to see, does this person know what they're talking about, right? Because when they do finally ask you about price, they're going to have all of that in their mind when you tell them that to say whether or not this is worth it for them or the other. And the same with you when you're sitting down with that person on the other side when they're interviewing you for hiring them or for you working with them. You're doing the same thing. Like, do I want to work with this person? Is this going to be a worthwhile project for me? And you kind of have to have. You don't really know this out at front. And sometimes in cases you do. I didn't, right? So a lot of the stuff that I learned in terms of business relations and talking with clients, it was kind of like a hit and miss. Like that when you're negotiating prices, not saying something after you say the price. Go ahead and let the silence be until they say it. The first person that says something is the person who loses, right? So I didn't know that, what I'm saying? It was like I would say something, they wouldn't say anything. Well, it doesn't have to be that much. I mean, we could do it for less, and before they, for all I know, they would have been like, I didn't think it was gonna be that cheap. I'm saying? I'm over here, trying to, deduct my price, right? Because I'm nervous about how to do that negotiation. And those types of things you have to build that confidence. You have to build, you have to go through, trial by fire sometimes? But it's important though, because if you can go through a trial period of that, I'd say within the first couple months of you doing business, right? Let's say your first job, if it's a service-based business, or even if it's a product, that first product, when you sell it, let's say you sell it for 20 bucks. All right, that's cool, but what if it's really worth, and it really took you, $100 to make, but then you sold it for 20 bucks? All right, you made that sale, however long until you made that first sale, the next sale should be at $40, the next sale should be at $60, the next sale should be, until you get to the profit that you really want to be at, right? The price you want to be at to start making a profit. But you kind of have to work your way up in there. And to do that, you have to find out who's your right audience, right? Because if I'm trying to sell, a camera stand to someone who is, a sketch artist, they don't need that, right? I'm selling to the wrong person. I need to find out where are the people that, because we're talking about your camera, your tripod, where are the people who actually are interested in tripods? Oh, okay, they're over here. I need to go talk to them. Because when I talk to them about why my tripod is better than any tripod they've ever seen, because it's lighter, it's cheaper, it's sturdier, it's, all of these things, they're gonna be like, I have no idea. It makes sense to them. But if I'm over here talking to the wrong group, it doesn't matter what price I say to them. They're not gonna wanna buy it. And so I'm spinning my wheels, at a demographic or at a market that really doesn't see any value in what I do, right? So you do have to investigate in your market, right? For a lot of you guys who are in school, whatever it is that you're starting business on or about to start business on, you need to know when you get out there, is this product or service that I'm going to sell, where does it stand? Is the median, $100 an hour? Is the median $50,000 an hour? Is the median, like when I first learned about what logos cost, like an actual corporate identity, I was like, oh, it's probably what, $200, $300, $400, $500. An actual logo, and this is what, in 98, 97, 10 grand, right? And so when I got this book and I was reading it, and I was like, what? And I'm over here thinking I'm doing all right, selling, logos and graphics like $500 a piece, and no, I'm nowhere near the market, right? But if I'm talking to somebody, I try to sell them that, and they're thinking in their mind, oh, $500, I was ready to sell this, buy from some money guy, down the street, or this last guy I met, I'm price matching this. You're the third person I talked to. Everybody else is telling me between 8 and 10 grand. You're the person that comes in at 500. Now they have to make a decision. Is my 500, is this 500 that I'm charging worthwhile, right? Is it, do I sound confident? Do I have, a portfolio that says that I can do the work at this caliber? Then they're getting away with it, right? But if not, and maybe they don't know. Maybe I'm the highest, right? And they talk to somebody who could do it for 500 or for $50 on Fiverr for $5, right? And then I'm doing it for 500. You got to know what your market is.
Well, if I can jump in really quickly on the creative. So I know your question is centered on the creative. So here's the problem with creativity, right? The problem with creativity is that it's very difficult to measure like what that's worth. It's
subjective.
It's very subjective. But when you look at little things, like even if you look at brands like Apple, like they spend a lot of time on little stuff. And in order, and this is another thing from a business standpoint, in order to measure really what something, like if you want to be transactional, what something should cost, if you were to work backwards and identify how much that brand means to them, you got to start counting hours a little bit, right? If I'm going to be on the phone with you for 5 hours over the next, 20 days or whatever, that's my time, you know. And then you start looking at market rates for creatives. You'll start to realize that, like you mentioned, there's a logo for 10 grand. Does anybody know how much the BP logo costs? I want somebody to Google this. I mean, Google it. I can't. Can somebody Google the BP logo?
We got an expert Google.
Actually, just Google the most expensive logo.
$211 million.
How much?
$211 million.
$211 million.
That's how much it costs.
Yeah, that's how much. Look up. There's an article on the most expensive logo. It's gonna start at 211, and it's gonna go down to 100 million. I forgot the other one.
There you go.
It's
Just that.
it's dumb stupid. Now, imagine this, right? That logo is gonna be on trucks, buildings. So when you look at a creative project, you also have to say, like, where's my work gonna be? Like, I was driving down the street downtown and I saw one of my clients' logo on a billboard. Then I drove 5 minutes and I saw another one of my logos that I made on another on a truck. And that's when I was like, shit, I'm confident about myself. But at the same time, yes, you're right. When you first start out, you don't have that confidence because people say, oh, well, what have you done? And you're like, well, I know what I can do.
Yeah.
Right? I know what I can do. But that's where it takes kind of investing a little bit in some creative projects. If you like to make logos, just do it for a nonprofit organization. And, you know, just kind of go out there and just get some work out there. You know what I mean?
As the only woman sitting on the panel and was actually excluded from this question, I think it's important to actually include me in it, not necessarily around the creative piece, but around the money. Although confidence is something that needs to be built among individuals in this space, it is not innate or bred in women as it is in men. And so the difference between asking for your worth is much harder, much tougher, and it is a space where you may feel like you are an island of your own, and this is directly towards the women in this room right now. I currently, with a group of other women, actually one of them who you all met on last week, if you all were here, Lachey Reeves, who teaches salary negotiation workshops. She and I, and a group of other women, partnered together to teach women how to determine their worth, not only in the creative space, but in the workplace. And I too had to determine what my cost was worth because I am selling my brain power, not a physical product. And that's even harder when a candidate has to figure out whether or not they believe in you and if you can deliver a win or not. But I want to say that although that confidence is not something that is homegrown and built up in you, you need to learn how to document every single thing that you do, how you do it, the amount of time that it takes for it to get done, the amount of time that it takes to perfect that skill, the energy that you put into it, the classes or courses that you take, the trainings that you attend, anything that you do around that goes into the value that you can assess for yourself and how you can determine the price you put on a product. And again, learn how to practice if you have to in the mirror, how to have that conversation. One thing we have to teach our candidates in politics is when they are calling and making calls for money, we keep them a bottle of water and we keep them some candy on the table. When they make that phone call and they ask, I need $1,000 from you to support my campaign, you better grab a piece of candy or you better suck some of this water down and not say a word. Like you said, do not rebut. Wait for that person to give you a response and say, oh, that's it, that's all you need, sure, we'll write a check. Sometimes the limit to raise money in this state is up to $10,000. And we're lowballing ourselves out here because we assume that people don't wanna pay for what we know a product is worth. If you know it's worth something, again, they're not negotiating their prices when we go to get our hair and nails done. The price is up there and there's no negotiation when we go in there to get those services. We pay what we have been told we're going to pay, and the same thing for you. If someone walks away, also don't consider that as putting yourself down in that sort of space. Don't beat yourself up about that because that's something that we also tend to do in these spaces. Know that that person was not for you. That's simply it. But make sure that you build yourself up to the level of confidence, not cocky, but confidence, in order to have those really tough conversations because they're going to be even harder for you than they are for them.
So let me ask this question then. Starting out, how do you establish, how do you convince other people your value when you're just starting? Like, playing devil's advocate. I don't know you. All I've seen is your website. I've seen your portfolio. Wow, you do good work, but I know you're a student. Like, how do you convince the client that you're worth investing in? Like, what do I say? Because
You
I
gotta-
don't have a reputation behind me.
You gotta convince yourself first, man. I'm sorry, I'm gonna come back to this. I might be totally polar to everybody else on this panel, but I, like Jasmine mentioned, like, I talk to myself all the time. Like, I'll be in the car, I'm like, yo, like, I'm talking to myself all the time. I had a speech impediment. How do you think I got over that? I was talking to myself. Like, I talk to myself all the time. And what that does, though, is you're able to sort of self-reflect physically. And, like, I had to literally convince myself that I was worth more than what I was ready to be worth. Like some people say, yeah, you know, I'm a millionaire already, I just don't have the money, right? And that's very true. Kanye, like, look, I love Kanye, right?
Yes, huge Kanye fan.
Kanye's confidence got him to where he was at. Like, he's like, I am the shit, and like he's just, he that's what he thinks. And so his mind co-creates his reality. You know, you look at anybody, and if you ask anybody that's in a certain, they will say, I knew I was gonna get there. I didn't think I was, this isn't luck. Someone wished me luck the other day. I was like, I don't need luck. Like, luck doesn't get me anywhere. You literally have to co-create your own reality by thinking about it, you know? So if you're not confident in yourself, or if you can't convince yourself that you're worth something, then it's very difficult to convince or even, you know, highlight or showcase your work in a way that someone else would be willing to, you know, separate with their cash to pay you. It's just hard.
So all of what Mike said, and building in some analytics to your work. When I initially started this conversation, I told you I raised $30,000 in 6 months for one person. Numbers do not lie, and you need to be able to quantify, quantify the work that you were doing out here in this field. Even if you're a college student building websites, build in some analytics that tell people how much traffic comes to that website. Build in how much time it took you to build that website. What were the tools you used? How much did it cost the client? How much did you save a client? Is also something that people want to hear, because, you know, time costs money. So what are the numbers behind the work and the things that you've been able to accomplish with the projects that you've done? Even if they aren't paid projects, let's say it's something for the school. What have you been able to do? How do you quantify that? And what are the numbers that go along with that? And then find those widgets and things of that nature that you can build in to say, this is what the traffic looks like, or this is what this looks like. They can tell you all that technical, so I don't even think about that. But they can, you know, you can find those tools that can help you. If it's, you know, you did something social media wise, there are social media hashtag websites that you can plug it in and tell you how many impressions you got, the time frame that you got it over the course of whatever the time frame was. Figure out what those online tools are that are low cost or free that help you quantify what you've been able to do so that you can build that portfolio that shows someone you can actually do what you say you really want to do.
So echo everything that they're saying. I'll add in someone who a lot of my friends and family would describe as an extrovert. I feel like I'm, you know, far from that. Get comfortable with hearing no, and don't let it get to you. Don't let somebody when you come to them with, you know, your product or service and they tell you no. Don't take that as a personal hit towards you, like as if you're not worth it. You're very much worth it. You know, you've studied, you've worked towards it, and everything like that. But you're gonna have to deal with it. You're gonna hear a lot of no's before you hear yeses, right? It's something that at the very, very beginning could be very discouraging. You might hear, you know, 20 no's before you hear a yes. And depending on how much you spend your 20, right? Like what Mike was saying, you may try to get your you know, make 20 phone calls in a day before you hit your no. But if you make your 20 phone calls over several months, that's hard, right? So those several months, you're thinking, every time you get a no, you're like, oh man, I might not be worth it, it might not be. It is, but you have to deal with the no. And then also on top of that, you have to learn how to find out a no and then understand why. Because the no isn't enough, right? The no may be, you're out of my budget, you're not qualified, you're not, you haven't shown me enough work, or you're not working in the industry that I really am looking for, or the samples that you showed me aren't worth it, or aren't relative, or the way that you spoke to me wasn't relative, or whatever. The eye contact, you know, you came in here chewing bubble gum, I don't know. Find out what the no is. Do you have a question? Find out what the no is, so that way you could then use that, put that in your mind, so that way your next person you talk to, if they tell you no, or matter of fact, before they tell you no, you take what you've heard, all the other no's and the excuses or whatever, use those to further qualify that you're worth it, so that way they can't tell you any of those reasons why no, they have to tell you something new. And by, after a certain period of time, you're gonna have all the reasons why, which means when you go back into sales, right, and you're telling them why they need you, you will have said all of these things and given them all of these reasons and why, and you've pre-qualified and you've showed them all this stuff or whatever, and they almost can't tell you no. Matter of fact, we've had this conversation a couple of years ago where it's like you have to talk to them in a way where it's like, I'm here to talk to you, but I don't need you. Matter of fact, you need me. And if I walk away from this table, you're the one who's gonna lose. You have to kind of have that kind of swagger and confidence when you're having that pre-qualifying, conversation. And again, it's something that you kind of develop, but you also have to know your stuff, right? Second thing I would say, especially at the beginning, make a list of maybe the 100 companies that you want to go for, and that you would want to sell your product or service to, right? And I'll use my example in terms of photography, right? Let's say I want to work with a certain model. Maybe I'll go out there and I'll do fire-free photo shoots with different models in different ways or whatever, right? In the ways that I want to really do, however creatively, right? Take those samples, then to the model that I really want to shoot, say, hey, listen, I really want to do this shoot with you, and here's what I've done with these other models. They're cool and everything, but here's what I really want to do with you. And so where it's like they can also see or maybe even feel the product or service that you're trying to sell to them, and then that way they have that representation to where they, again, and of course you come back with, your spiel to where they almost can't tell you no, and now they have the physical product or they're seeing the example, and it's like, you're dumb if you say no. You don't say that to them, but it's like, you're dumb if you say no. Because I'm gonna take this to your competitor and they're gonna say yes. So you better say yes now, or else, you're missing out on a huge opportunity.
And just to kind of piggyback on that really quickly. So all of you have gone through like kindergarten and elementary school and middle school and high school and all that, and then you're like here, right? Has anybody not been through middle school? Everybody's been through middle school. High school, right? So think about this. Since we were born, all of us, we go through this school system, and what you were conditioned to think was, if you do not get 100%, that's bad. What happens here at Full Sail if you get a 30% on a test? What's that considered? That's a horrible thing, right? It's a horrible thing. So what happens when that's the thing with entrepreneurship is it flips like this conventional training or conditioning right on its back, because entrepreneurs don't think that way. Like, you were conditioned to think, I need 100%. So there's a quote that says perfection paralyzes you. When you always strive for that 100%, what it does, one, it discourages you really quickly. Two, it prevents you from doing anything at all. You know how many people I sit with that never start their business because they want to be perfect? They want to be perfect. So while entrepreneurs, they go out and they say, I want one person out of 50 to say yes to me, versus getting all 50 to tell me yes. Howard Schultz, he started Starbucks. You want to know how many times he was told no when he was going to raise capital? I want you guys to guess that number. Do you know?
I've heard the story, and I think it's over.
How many times?
Higher than that, right?
300.
No. He's like 300. No, 242 times he was told no. 242 times. All of these large corporations, they were told no more than they were told yes. But the good part about it is that you, as an entrepreneur, can trick your mind into thinking that no is yes. So here's what I mean by that. When I was working as a financial advisor, this was like my first real sales job. I got a sale and I made $1,000. Man, I was excited as hell. I was like, man, I made $1,000 and I had to contact 10 people to make the $1,000. So my coach said, how do you view that? And I'm like, well, I called 10 people and I made one sale. So I made $1,000 for one person. They're like, no, don't think about it that way. Because if you think about it that way, that means you failed 90% of the time and you succeeded once. So I was like, well, how should I think about it? He was like, well, you made one sale out of the 10 phone calls you made. That means you made $100 per phone call. So I was like, oh snap, total backflip. Like I saw sales and entrepreneurship totally differently after that. Now I'll sit with 20 clients in a week, and 19 of them would tell me no, and I get that one yes, and I'm like, I had a good week. I had a great week, man. Like, my week was good. High five, drinks, right? So as aspiring entrepreneurs, always look. He talks about the no's. The no's can be yeses. It's all your perspective on how you view how you walk away from that table. So,
Where are we at on time?
6:55.
6:55. Okay, cool. Because I was gonna move into something a little bit more practical now.
okay.
Starting with you, Ms. Chow. When starting your business, what articles should you file your business under? Like, should I do an LLC? Should I do a corporation? Should I do a DBA? Like, what's the safest route? What's the optimum route starting out?
So I can't advise you on what is the safest route because I don't know what everyone's business is.
Is there a
will
safe-
tell you.
I should ask.
I'll
that,
tell you
I'm
what's a
sorry.
common route.
Okay.
So a common route is to file an LLC. Removes the liability, allows you to start a business, nice, free, and clear. It's simple, it's easy to file. You go on the website, you submit your articles, and you're good to go. You probably see a ton of LLCs as well because that's the nice, simple, easy, low liability way of doing it. As you get more advanced in this space, you'll start to get into all the different levels of business licenses. But that's, I think, the best place for you to start your business. I also have a DBA, do business as, for my Chicks and Politics brand. So it's under my professional business license LLC, but I also have a DBA so that it all is funneled through one place. I do that for tax purposes, makes it clean, easy, and simple for me, and could also be easy and simple for you. I would not suggest creating, and the good thing, well, let me back up. The good thing about DBA is I think it lasts for 5 years. It's like $50, and you can create it for as many things as you want, and you don't have to renew it until that 5-year period is up. I would not suggest creating a DBA for every single idea that you have. Don't do that. Create an LLC for whatever is, a parent company. If you think that you're going to have multiple things, create one LLC. Get good at that. Identify what that is. Figure that out. Hone in on those skills and run with it. If you think you want to add a component to it and need some additional legal backing or want a different name under it, then you can create a DBA. But don't do that for every single business idea that you have. Get clear on what it is that you would like. I'd also suggest going to entrepreneur.com and just reading about the different licenses and determining what the different options are. Also, Black Enterprise is a great place for you to go and also read more information about that. I'm just not the best person to probably ask that for, but LLC is known, common, simple, and it's something that anyone at any age could definitely just go ahead and create because it's just easy. But they may have different needs.
There's an online questionnaire that you can work through. I forgot the website. I'll hand it up to Alex to give it out. But it'll ask you different questions, and it'll kind of give you a little bit of insight into which one would be the best suited. When it comes to limited liability, the liability really is in people's sort of equitable share in your business. So, like LLCs, you can't technically sell like shares of your business, so you limit your liability. Now, when you start getting into like S corps and C corps, that's when you can set up a business with the intent to sell off pieces of it. Like if you want to raise capital, then you would say, hey, you know what? I'm setting up this business. I'm going to put this, imaginary valuation on it, and I'm going to sell people shares. And then that's when people can put money into the business and say, I can stake claim in your company. I own 10 shares, and he has 100 to give, so I own 10% of his business. At that point, you're sort of getting rid of your limited liability, but at the same time, it gives you power to be able to raise capital to do more stuff. Again, just like Jasmine mentioned, I can't give advice on that per se, but yeah, my company's a limited liability company. But it's my partner and I. When we fill out taxes, we use it as like a pass through. We both get these 1065 K1s, and we literally everything's clean. But our next venture, we're going to be raising capital for, so we will have to make some decisions on what type of structure is going to be best suited for that, based off of how we want to raise capital. So.
I, just like Mike, my first business actually was a sole proprietorship. And let me just actually step back a little bit and rewind. For all of you, go to sunbiz.org. A lot of what you want to file, especially starting a business here in Florida, you can do online. So a sole proprietorship is basically doing a business as a DBA, right? So let's say, for example, I'm Jean Perpillant. I can do, my first business was Solo Flight Computers. And so it was Jean Perpillant, DBA, as Solo Flight Computers. And that enabled me to get a business account. That enabled me to get a federal identification number, which now, doing a DBA in Florida, you can register your business. Again, it gives you 5 years, just like what Jasmine said. And for an extra $10, you get a certificate that they'll mail you in the mail, right? Now, with having that, you can then go to the IRS.gov and you can fill out, or you can call, and you can get your federal identification number. It's like your business social security number. That is for free. They'll give you that, and that will be, no matter how many times you change your business, which I've done twice, that federal identification number, or FEIN, stays with you. Again, you get it for free. Just call them up. I did it over the phone. You can do it online. Either way, it's fast. It really takes a couple minutes, and they'll give it to you. Now, having that, you can operate as a DBA. However, if you're doing it as a sole proprietor, all the liability that ensues is all on you. By going the next step and by doing a corporation, or at least setting up an LLC, a limited liability corporation, that gives liability towards the business. So if someone comes after you and they want to sue you for something, they're essentially suing that company, which the company has no assets. If you set it up that way, you talk to your legal advisor. I am not one, but speak to someone, because they will tell you that that company has no assets. You have assets. So if you have a car, you have a house, you have this, you have 401k, you have savings, you have a savings account, blah blah blah. All of that is on your personal, and then whatever accounts you have are under the business or operating under the business, right? So that way you're limited liability, which is what it calls for. And like what Mike's saying, there's other levels above that, but I have been operating under an LLC. I have a partner who is my wife, and we are 50-50. Now, there are other things, especially with being a minority and also with being a female. There are different benefits to having that, which is when you get into lending, when you're getting into doing RFPs, working for the government, whether it's state or federal. Look into a lot of these things, because there's a lot of benefits by being a minority that are awarded to you when starting your business or going after business that would really cut down the competition for you. But you have to kind of know those types of things. So I used to do RFPs when I was in Connecticut, and because we were registered, because it was more percentage of my company at the time as an LLC when I registered up there was more under me than my partner who was white. We still fell under a lot of these benefits because I had the majority and I was a minority. So look into some of these things. But again, as everybody else is saying, seek legal, professional legal advice.
And like that, so he brought up being a minority is even here locally, Orlando Magic, I've done a ton of graphic work for the Orlando Magic, like from flyers to designing walls. UCF also has a diversity, supply chain diversity board where they're giving contracts. I designed a bunch of stuff for Light Up UCF. So like you could get these contracts just because I watched somebody like leverage being a minority by, and two white dudes, of course, being a white man, you're not really considered a minority, but what they did, they created a business in their mom's name, and then when they got like a $500,000 contract, right? So like, but just being a female, being African American, being Hispanic, you can look up those diversity profiles or minority profiles. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how old you are. May I ask who the youngest person is, or is that not? Who's the youngest person in this room?
Who's 17? 18? 18?
No, not me. I'm asking.
I was gonna say, who's 17? You're 17?
I'm 18.
18. Anybody 17? How many 18-year-olds?
I just want to let you know there are 18-year-old millionaires out here. Like,
I'm behind, I know.
These guys are not playing out here. So like, the reason I say that is because I speak to young aspiring entrepreneurs, and they always think I'm too young. I'll just wait until I'm in my mid-20s. You go out to like the valley, like Cupertino, if you're 21 and you're not like a millionaire, they're like, you're old. Like you're not, what are you doing, right? So do not think that you have to be of a certain age, because we're in a time right now where, like, if you want to know something, you Google it. Like, in the past, academia was this wall, and the professors were behind the wall. It was like, oh, you want this information to do A, B, and C? Come to school. Come to school. But now, you want to ask a question? You pick up your phone. Hey Siri, what's the capital of Arkansas? I don't need to know that in school. Like, all I need to do is ask my phone, and just having access to that, your mind can serve as a processor versus this memorization bank. So you're not too young. You could be an 18-year-old millionaire, and you could be a 19-year-old millionaire, a 20-year-old millionaire, and you would have. And you know what? If you fail now and fail fast, by the time you are 23, 24, 25, your skin would be so thick that when you go out to ask for deals, you're like, they'll tell you no and slap you in the face, and you're like, who am I meeting with at 3 o'clock? Like, that's how you get. Like, I was working in financial advising, and has anybody ever been a part of like a network marketing business? Like Amway, anything like that? Yo.
Oh my God.
Yo. Like, when I would make appointments and people would like not show up. Like, I would make appointments and people would be like, I don't want to do this. Can you like never call me again? Like, so my skin started to get thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker. And now, like, hearing no is like, all right, cool, man. You wanna go grab some drinks?
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. So, be young, be foolish, be a foolie. Like, just go out there and just, that's why I love this brand, because like, you can, when you think about the brand Foolies, most people, when I say people get paralyzed by perfection, like, they sit on their idea. And what is his name? Oh my gosh, I forgot his name. He was talking about, it wasn't Les Brown, it was, oh my gosh, regardless, I'll think of it later.
Yeah.
He said, most of us, you know, we're gonna live life, and we're gonna get to our deathbeds, and I'm sorry for making it dark now, right? But we're gonna get to our deathbeds, and we're gonna be laying there, and what's gonna happen is we're gonna have all of this stuff around us, books you never wrote, businesses you never started, songs you never sang, stuff you never designed, and when you go, all that stuff's gonna go with you. The most wealthiest place on the planet is the cemetery.
You sure it wasn't Les Brown?
He told the story. No, it wasn't Les Brown. It was Miles Monroe. Miles Monroe.
Mm-hmm.
And so I say that because now that you're young, you could literally be foolish. You could do whatever. You could mess up. You could mess up. And you want to know what happens when you're an entrepreneur, you mess up, then you get a job. I mean, like if you want to get a job, you can get a job. Like, jobs are easy to get. You just apply for 100 of them. Right? Most people, when they're looking for jobs, they apply for 3. They're like, oh my God, I'm a failure. It's like, really? If you need money, you can go get a job. But if you're an entrepreneur, you can literally be young and foolish right now and just go out, own the world. If you fall flat on your face, get up. Then you fall flat on your face again, get up. You'll get up faster every time. So I love that, you know, I get to talk to young entrepreneurs, because by the time you guys are my age, like, you're gonna be literally like, Mike, you wanna come work for me? Like, I'll hire you. Like, I'm like, yeah, you know what, I am slowing down. So,
it is easier, especially being, I just want to touch on that for a second. I definitely want to yield. But when I got started, I had kids already. You know, it was a lot harder. I had a job full time, and I tried to juggle all of this at the same time. If you don't have those responsibilities, by all means, you know, fall fast, try it all. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that, because you learn from that, and then you adjust, and then you move on.
Yeah, I have to totally agree with that. In my industry, there's a real thing around ageism. If you are older, you have a family, you cannot travel as often, you cannot be as flexible. You're not high on the food chain. We are not looking at you to come on and be a part. If you got that flexibility, you're young, you're agile, you can be wherever we need you to be, whenever we need you to be. You are number one. Even if we we have to train you through the process, and you know nothing, we will give you all those skills. But as you get older, and unfortunately, more and more baggage gets attached to you, you are less and less attractive. What I would go back to around the minority and women business opportunities here in Orlando, they are great. You should definitely take advantage of them. You can simply Google them through the county or the city. That's where a large portion of them are. They have tons of seminars that are free and available to you. Actually, just got an email today from the African American Chamber of Commerce, who's getting ready to do one coming up, where they're just inviting people to learn how to go through this process. But I will say that it is not an easy process. So just to add to this, do not get fatigued in this space, because there are a lot of hoops that you will have to jump through, but they are well worth it in the end. It is all worth the time and energy, going back and repeating that budget, going back and repeating that proposal, going back and repeating that narrative, going back and doing whatever it is you're being asked to do 100 times. There is a very popular group here in the state of Florida that we wanted to give $1 million to for a program. And they didn't have a good experience in 2016 and said there were just too many hoops we had to jump through, too many rules we have to follow. We just don't want to be bothered. And we said, okay, fine. I split that $1 million up and gave it to 5 smaller groups who were younger, who had the time, who were hungry, and who were going through all those hoops. We've been going through hoops since October. And April 1st is when they will receive their money, they will start their program, and they will hit the ground running for the initiative that they're getting ready to go through. So stay in there, no matter how hard it gets. You will get fatigued and frustrated, but know that there is, you know, a bigger pot of gold at the end of all of this.
Well, thank you for the interest of time, because I mean, just talking about starting up and what it takes to build a successful business, there's so many questions that I actually have prepared for myself. There's so many questions and there's so many topics that we could cover, but for the interest of time, I'm pretty sure some of the students have questions that they want to ask as well. So I'm opening the floor to the students. So we'll make our way around. Go ahead.
Okay, I want to start, I'm starting to live stream on YouTube a lot, and I know that's something that a lot of people do, but a lot of the feedback that I'm getting, and I kind of located my target market fast, so I know who the kids are, like the people that I need to, like, I guess, like, really make my content for, but the struggle that I'm having is I'm low on funds, so for me it's hard to, like, I wanna advertise like my stuff more on social media, which I know is free, but then I feel like I'm on time as well, because I want to stream, but I can't like post and stream and do all that stuff all at the same time. Then I want to have a buddy who's there with me, but I can't have a buddy forever. That buddy's gonna want to start getting some revenue, and for me it's hard to grow my channel to have my channel giving me some revenue when I can't do it all by myself. And I'm like, how can I do it all by myself? If I guess that's what I'm asking. Like, how can I do it all by myself?
So let me jump in there a little bit. So how big is your channel? How many subscribers do you have?
170 something.
170 something.
Yeah.
How often are you live streaming?
Every day.
Every day for how long?
For more than 6 hours.
For more than 6 hours at a time. What is your content about?
I play video games.
So like Twitch?
I'm on YouTube, and I stream Fortnite a lot now.
You streaming from your computer to straight to YouTube?
I'm streaming straight from my PlayStation to YouTube.
Okay. All right. So are the people that are online watching, are they engaging with you?
Yes.
How are they engaging? Comments, or is it after the fact, or is it during?
It's a lot of during the live stream. They comment. They're like putting emojis and all that stuff. They're loving what I'm doing. They're asking me to do stuff. I'm doing that stuff. It's a good experience.
What are the replays like?
Replays?
Yes. So like after you've live streamed, when people go back and watch the replays.
That's where I'm getting a lot more of my views.
On the replays?
Yeah, as people
Okay.
are coming back and watching.
So one of the things that I've been noticing with YouTube, especially in the space, is that it's very volatile. When you look at monetization, they just changed things because of what happened with Logan Paul and what he did over there in Asia, if you guys are paying attention to it. So because of him, we're all suffering, right? And he just moved the goalpost where it was like, okay, you can start monetizing after you've got 100 subscribers in so many hours. Now it's 10,000 subscribers and I think 4,000 hours of watch time, right? So now,
10,000 hours.
so yeah, it's 10,000 hours. It was 100. What's that?
It's 10,000 hours.
It's 10,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours.
It's not subscribers?
It's
It's 10,000. No, it's subscribers too.
It's 10,000 viewing
It's
hours.
10,000 views and 4,000 hours. That's it, cause I know.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Nonetheless, right? The goalpost is moved. It wasn't what it was before. Before, all you had to do was reach a very minimal amount, right?
Right.
So here's the thing. What you have to start doing is what the other guys have been doing. You have to start selling merch. So by having a Patreon page, go and get one if you don't already have it. Do you have one or not?
No.
Okay, great. Sorry, Patreon. So go to Patreon and create an account, and what that does is kind of like a GoFundMe, except whenever someone wants to give you money because they appreciate what you're doing, they just put money in your Patreon account, and that just filters right over to you. They take some money off or whatever, but it's still a way for them to give money right to you, so you don't have to worry about this about the ads or your ad revenue, because that's going to fluctuate, and that's only going to continue to change because of what's happening in the market right now with YouTube and the ads and the companies that are providing ads, and depending on how they're pulling and using. So start selling merch. Also promote a Patreon page. And by doing merch, it could be anywhere from t-shirts to bands. Maybe work with see if you can find some people who are local who create some, since it's gaming, it's on PlayStation. Maybe you can have somebody who's, maybe you can go to Orange County, matter of fact, at the library system, maybe create like use their 3D printer and create some custom skins for PlayStation 4s, right?
Okay.
Where it's got your graphic on it, or maybe it's got maybe work with some local designers and graphic artists and like create some stuff that hasn't been seen or whatever, so that way you don't have to worry about using like a Sonic logo or whatever is popular,
Okay.
and where you get copyright infringement, where you create something that's totally custom, right?
Okay.
Have that where it's like, hey guys, at the beginning of your stream, and at the end of your stream, promote it.
Okay.
Don't do it all throughout. Just do it at the beginning and do it at the end, so that way they know. That way, in case they missed it at the beginning or they came in at the end, especially for the replays, they'll see it. Have that ready to go. Show them the example. Have it on your, show your console or whatever, so that way they see it. Share that on social media, right? And have a link right back to the page where they can buy that. Create yourself a website for, if you're looking at, on the cheap, create something through Squarespace. It's not going to be a lot of money. You can create something very quickly, and you're young enough to where you can learn it very. It's drag and drop. Do that. And that will help build things. Now, once you start building and start making a little bit of money, take all that money, put it aside, figure out what it's going to cost for you to get yourself a virtual assistant or get yourself someone who's going to help you. And I would start with a virtual assistant because there's going to be, again, on the cheap. Figure out what it is exactly that you want them to do and frame that out now. Plan that out now, right?
Okay.
So that when you do have the money, you can go ahead and act instead of, and also go and find out where to get a virtual assistant. Maybe it is on Fiverr, maybe it is on Indeed, maybe it is on what's the other work ones? Upwork or whatever. Maybe whatever, Postmates, whatever. Postmates is it, but all of those sites that are out there, right? They'll tell you. Go find those and go source that out. Find out what that is. Maybe it's $20 an hour. Maybe someone you find some people that are on it that are $15 an hour or whatever. Figure them out. Talk to them and see if they're gonna match you. So that when you have the money, you can already start working, right? And then there it is. That is gonna give you more time. And then you can start to plan and budget out what it's going to be, and then that way, over time, it's like, all right, I can only afford you for an hour a week. Eventually, you can afford them for 2 hours a week, and for all week, or 8 hours a day, or whatever. And then there you're able to grow.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I can't follow that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna follow that.
Yeah.
So,
Perfect.
yeah, that's $1,000 right there.
Joe,
I think he was next.
yeah, Joe, and then we'll take my man in the back there.
So my question to you guys and lady, how do you, when we talk about jumping through hoops and sticking with it and dealing with any and everything that comes, how do you identify who to trust through those hoops? How do you identify who to take with you and those to actually link into on the other end of that hoop, like your people that might motivate you or the people that you look up to for the information? How do you identify who to trust, especially when starting your own business? I think in this generation it's kind of hard to have that, hey, I can trust you, because now it's no longer a face-to-face. I'm the type of guy that likes doing face-to-face or like going out and meeting. But in this era, we don't really have that connection. So how do you identify the ones that you can trust and establish, hey, this is my group, this is who I want to work with, and this is who I see myself connecting to on the other side of this here dream or goal?
So 2 things for me. First is I'm very in tune and keen with my faith. That's real for me. My husband is an elder. I, utilize and build my relationship with God and take it very seriously. I'm not a super churchy, all of this. So chill out. But I certainly use my level of discernment in determining what my spirit feels and how it connects with other people. And I have to do that in my industry because it is so cutthroat. No one trusts anyone in politics. And everyone is nasty, everyone is out for themselves. It is not a happy place all the time to work. It's not a positive place, especially being a woman and then a woman of color. And you're, at the back and not at the forefront of a lot of things. You have to have discernment and you have to figure out what knife is gonna come at you today. So I rely on God heavily. The second thing is Dr. Google. I do some serious background checks on folks and utilizing Google as a way to do that. There are a lot of different tools out there that you can use. So business purposes, trying to figure out who's right, who's not. You go to your county clerk of court website, type that person's name in, figure out, what their legal background looks like. Now that's real now.
Wow.
You gotta make sure you know who and what you're dealing with out in this space. Because people can tell you anything, but also Google their products. Ask for references if you're trying to work with folks. See, what the path is that they took. Find out if there's any mutual friends in there. Determine, those sort of relationships that way. Those are some simple things I think that could help you determine who to sort of trust. There's still always probably going to be a pit in your stomach no matter what you do. But those are two things that I certainly rely on in this space because I just have to.
I never thought about actually Googling like them, the clerk.
Yeah.
That's how you really know.
Yeah,
These charges now, right?
You gonna find a real creative person? I got a record.
And that's fine too. You know what the business relationship is like. There may be stuff in there like, oh, that's not okay, but I need him to build a website. So this is what I need, and that's perfectly fine. It all just depends on what it is you need and what kind of trust you're trying to build.
I normally say when it comes to making that decision, the person with the vision is going to be the one that really owns the business. It doesn't matter how you file. It doesn't matter, the person that owns the vision is the person that really owns the business. So all of the decision making that you go through should be centered on making sure that vision is protected. Now, yes, there is a level of, you need to be protected to a certain point as well, but at some point, you're building something bigger than you. So most people, they skip over dollars to pick up pennies. So they get very sensitive about who they're working with, but then at the same time, they lose sight of what they dreamt of. Because that's the thing about dreams is that, you're accessing an irrational part of your mind. These are things that, especially if you're a big thinker, some people think about stuff that, is right down the street. Oh my gosh, I want to build a website business. It's okay. But then there's others that's hey, I want to build a business that's able to leverage artificial intelligence to create videos. I use this tool called Magisto, and it's really cool. It uses artificial intelligence to be able to create these amazing videos. Somebody thought of that. And what they protected wasn't themselves, it was the intellectual property that they were creating. But that vision that they thought of was what they focused on protecting. So who they partnered with, if that person, just like what Jasmine said, if that person wasn't bought into that vision, then they're not a partner. It doesn't matter how good they are at anything. It doesn't matter if they have a record, it doesn't matter who they are. You should look at somebody and say, does my gut say that this person is bought into this vision? And if they can't see it, then they're not going to be a good partner at all anyway. They're going to be focused on how much they're going to make. They're going to be self-serving. And so I would say when you're starting a business, one, have a vision. If you don't have a vision, you don't have a business. And two, make sure that you're selling people on that vision and make sure they see it. If they don't see it, then they would not be a good partner. Promise.
So, let me make sure I have the question. So, I would say this. When I first got started, and what I still do now, not as much as I don't have the time, but networking, right? Meet as many people as you can in whatever network environment that is out there. There's a lot of business after hours, lunch and learns, and blah, blah, blah. If nothing else, talk to him when we're done here. Mike knows everybody. He does. And so when you surround yourself, or at least be able to where you can be familiar with somebody, to where you know that they have access to a lot of people, they'll tell you, you know, because I've gotten into business with somebody and like I've gotten, you know, like if someone was like, hey, listen, I see you talking, don't and they'll tell me afterwards like, yeah, listen, I tried to work with them, or the rumor on the street is about this, or I've heard about this, or I've seen this, and then go back and fact check, right? Just like, you know, in church, it's like, all right, I heard the sermon, sounds great, go read it on your own, get your own word, right? Do that research on the back end, but also ask. There's a lot of people, chances are, if you're going to go work with someone or a business who's already established, chances are they work with other people. Same thing that, you know, someone's going to do with you and check your references, check their references. Go see what the word is on the street about them. And if you can't find that out, find someone who has. You know, to ask around, ask your friends that are in that space, or maybe in that space, and say, do you know about this? Or do you know someone who does know about this? Put me in touch with them, right? LinkedIn is fantastic because LinkedIn is like tied with so many, you can tie with so many different people. Jump through LinkedIn and find out who's tied with what. Look at the business, look who works with the business, who's connected to it, who subscribes to it, who's worked there in the past, and then go ask them, say, what's the culture like over there? Before you go get a job at a company, find out who used to work there. Ask them, they'll tell you.
And last point, you can test them too. Like, know what you're looking for. So like an example would be like, if you need somebody with a lot of financial or business acumen, test them a little bit. Ask them some questions and see how they respond. If they can't give you an answer, they're not gonna give you what you need. You know, so make sure you're filling gaps. Because if you and your partner are good at one thing, that's a horrible partnership. Like you have to be good at something, and your partner has to be good at whatever's gonna complement what's gonna achieve that business goal or those objectives. So make sure that you're looking for something that complements you, but you can test them as well to see if, and make sure you're good at that too. Like, so I have a lot of people that come to me about like business stuff, and they're not good at what they're asking me to partner with them on. So I'm like, I'm not partnering with you. You're not good at that. You don't like that, you know. So make sure, self-reflect, and make sure that what you are going to be good at is what you're devoted and you 100% decided to excel in, so that whoever compliments you, like you guys are gonna ride together.
So my man at the top of the table, and you don't believe right there.
Two quick questions for you guys. One, how do you feel about applying for business credit and like a DUNS number, EIN number to like help your business excel?
It depends. It depends. I am big on, you don't have a business unless you're able to sell and you have something. So I'm big on, if you can bootstrap your business, bootstrap your business. Like, you can, there's plenty of people that are going bankrupt and they get money and then they lose it all. So the thing about loans is when you lose that money, you owe that money. You know, so you're in debt. The thing about getting an investor is you get an investment, you lose that money, you're not gonna get another, like, I mean, you might get another investor, but now you have a bad reputation, you know, so you're not gonna make any money. The way to really know whether or not your business is validated is to sell. If you get people opening up their wallet to give you money, whatever that margin is, make sure that margin can supplement what you're growing to, and bootstrap, man. Sell the hell out of whatever you have. Now, if you're making a product and you already validated your marketplace, and it will take you 10 years to be able to afford to do that, then that's when you can say, if I get a DUNS number and I borrow 50,000, I know I can make 200 grand within a year. Even if I fail 50%, I make 100 grand in a year and I can pay off that 50 grand still, then it's a good business decision. But if you're not accelerating time by getting that loan, no, you better sell, dude. Sell, bootstrap, boot.
My next question was,
I agree with that. So I'm not gonna add more.
my other question was, any tips on, because I own a social media agency, so it's like any tips on outsourcing the work for the actual client, or like getting it done? Because I know you can use, like, one of the things I'm really using is Fiverr.com. That gets a lot of work done, because a lot of people. But any other tips on better outsourcing to get the work done, so you can have more time for yourself and having someone else actually control, being the owner, not the boss.
I'm not sure I fully understand the question, but I'll tag on after you go. Let me just say this, I'm sorry, before that, last thing, to go back what you said before, try your best not to start a business in debt.
Yeah.
It's gonna drive you absolutely bananas. There's already so many things you're gonna have to deal with, and stress. Debt shouldn't be one of the things that's gonna, because it's gonna be the worst thing to deal with. Try not to start your business in debt.
Did you get a loan to go to school here?
Yeah, Right, yeah.
Yeah, definitely don't ever. Do not, business loan, just guns and all that, get that out of here. Because this is a business loan. You already took out a business loan. They're investing in your ability to create an asset. So, all right, I won't belabor that. Social Made Simple is a white label social media outsourcing company. It's called Social Made Simple. It's a social concierge service. What you do is, you basically now, it does cost, if you want it to be fully white labeled, you pay $2,000 and they set up this dashboard where all of your clients, their information is loaded, and then they literally have a program manager, a project manager. They also have like the creatives to create graphics, write the content. They manage all of the social media while you basically get clients. You don't even have to field the phone calls. So they charge you like $300 a client. You charge the client about $1,000. You give the client an initial strategy. You give Social Made Simple some direction, and then you have your margin. You get 10 to 20 clients. You're driving a Maserati, man.
I don't have any websites to add to that, but I would strongly encourage that folks look into outsourcing, because that is just the way to go in this space or any space that you're in. I try to outsource for a lot of my candidates when I was working directly with them in the past. I don't outsource now, but I have a lot of remote staff. So staff work for me all across the entire state in different areas, and we use different tools to stay connected. And I just think it's the best place to go, especially being a millennial, not wanting to be so directly bogged down with the minutia of the business. If you have the ability to, charge a fee that covers those outsourcing costs, definitely go for it.
So what I would say to that is, do your research on what they're actually gonna do for you. A lot of times, there's a million companies that are out there that'll tell you that they can do your social media for you, and they'll sell you the moon at various prices, anywhere from like bottom to the top, right?
What is that actually called? Like, what is something like Social Made Simple? What would you categorize it as? I can look that up and maybe find more companies like that.
White label social media outsourcing, like white label social concierge.
Yeah.
Yeah. When the term white label means there's a company that's doing work for you, but they act on your behalf. So if your company's called, like my company's called SFG, Straight From The Gut, they will literally talk to your client and say, "Hi, this is Samantha from Straight From The Gut." I mean, sometimes they kind of trip up. They're like, "Yeah, hi, I'm Samantha from Straight From The Butt or something." I'm like, "All right, yeah, can you please?" So they trip up sometimes, but I've never lost a client because of it.
Do you think it'd be like,
Well, we'll let the young lady ask the question. Yeah, so we'll move on. Thank you.
So, my name is Amy Mary. I'm in the entertainment business, and I was just asking about where do you find a virtual assistant? Because you said something about virtual assistant, and how much does that cost?
So it varies. I think Upwork, they bought Odesk. So Odesk, I think, was out, and I think they got bought by Upwork. But Upwork is a pretty good source. You can actually find some on Fiverr, to tell you the truth. There's a lot of contractors that are on there that provide all types of services, but those would probably be the two that I would look for. You can also look on Craigslist. Do a Google search, say virtual assistant Orlando, and see what comes up, so that way it's also local. One of the things that I would say, you always want to have someone that you can kind of have a relationship with, because your needs are going to grow, but you're also going to want to test the waters at the very beginning with something minute that isn't too forward facing or too volatile.
Because you have to trust them.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So what you want to do is like start with something small. So let's say, for example, you just need someone to read through your emails or process your orders, right? Okay. So as long as they're getting the emails in, you set up an email account so that way it's just for them and they're seeing that, and then they type up stuff or they data entry, right? They can do data entry, and then once you work with them, let's say for a couple of weeks, and you can kind of trust them, maybe you can give them a little bit more, right? But you don't start off with like, hey, I need you to, process these orders and run these credit cards and save this information over here,
So they can post on the website.
They can do whatever you want them to do. You tell them what you want them to do.
And then also one more question.
Yeah, I want to add to that too. Go ahead.
Yeah, if I can add to that. A virtual assistant should be taking stuff off of your plate, but make sure it's on your plate first. So I've seen a lot of people, they hire virtual assistants and they haven't defined what they really want them to do. You always lose them or you always waste your money. So I would definitely say within your business, if you are gonna have them post, make sure you have some type of like format for them to post, a schedule. If you want them to organize your emails, make sure they have their scripts, make sure they have your calendar, make sure you have the systems in place so that when you do have them do something, you know 5 hours of them doing this work is saving me 20. So that you can, so.
And just to add to that, that's exactly what I was gonna say, and also know how to do what you're asking your assistant to do. So that there is a benchmark that you can rely on and know that, this is either being done correctly or it's not being done correctly, and you know how much time that is going to take to get that done. So in the event that you do ever lose that assistant, you can pick that up. But yes, they should only be taking stuff off your plate, not getting it because it's cool to have a virtual assistant. Definitely make sure that you know what it is that that person is doing and you can do it yourself as well.
And how do I compare that to social, white label social media outsourcing? If I have a virtual assistant, if I feel like I need it, would I necessarily need a white label social?
Your virtual assistant isn't your social media person.
Okay.
Your virtual assistant is somebody that's gonna be, once you have 10, 15, 20, 30 clients, you're gonna get questions about invoices, you're gonna get questions about inquiries, certain aspects of a project being complete, what's the status on stuff. You're gonna get questions about, hey, I need these additional services, can I get a quote? That's what your virtual assistant should be used for. Once you start telling your virtual assistant post on social media, now their role is marketing, right? And you can't expect too much from that. There are some virtual assistants that are for creatives, and you're able to give them tasks like that, but you kind of have to, you gotta Google that, you gotta find those people.
Yeah, please don't use virtual assistants because you don't like social media.
Yeah, it's not gonna
That's
help you.
not how that works. So just, if you don't like social media, start liking it and start using it because it's
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Let me just say a caveat on that too, though, is that right now in the marketplace, you really want to find out where you should be in social media too, because a lot of you are probably going to be, like, hey, I'm going to be over here on Instagram, I'm going to be on Twitter, I'm going to be on Facebook, I'm going to be over on YouTube. I'm going to really find out where you should be, and then, like they said, create a plan for that, because you will spend a lot of money, whether it's a white label, whatever, however you're managing, even if you're doing it on your own, spend a lot of time and effort on a platform and not see the, if you're not paying attention to your metrics and not see any return on your investment. So really figure that out. And I also want to say this too, is that if you're gonna jump into social media and actually pay for it, which really that's how it's actually working now, just posting, several times a day isn't gonna do you much good. Really look into Facebook and Facebook advertising, because that right now, Alex and I have talked about this several times, but right now it's undervalued for the amount of reach that you're going to be able to get.
Yes.
When that correction does come, you're going to be priced out of it. So if you're going to jump into something, make sure that you have your ducks in a row. But then go. I would say first thing you want to go into Facebook, which is also Instagram. Jump into that platform. You're going to see some pretty good return on investment there once you figured out exactly who you want to target to down to the person.
Yeah, and don't look at virtual assistant in a social media company as one canceling out the other. It's the same thing. It's just you're outsourcing it. They're just providing two different services. One's social media, one's personal assistant. You can outsource video making. You can outsource, invoicing. It's just a form of outsourcing. It is what is it you specifically need. So if you really need a social media person, then go in that direction.
Or someone to post on a website. That's different.
So that's building content, copywriting, and all of that for a website. So that's totally different from social media.
And that's what a personal assistant can do, a virtual assistant can do that? Just posting?
Nope.
Yeah.
No, the skill sets. You need to determine what the skill sets are.
What's your business? Like, what are they writing?
Well, I have a urban culture magazine, and I call it a magazine, but it's really just a website or a blog. And people send in music, and I post it on the website.
Okay.
And then I also put artists that I feature on the Instagram page on the website, on like the videos and stuff, like their videos and stuff. So maybe artists who are doing better off than the up-and-coming artists. So I'm trying to have someone post to the website that I can rely
network of contributors, and then once your exposure starts to grow, people are gonna say, I want to get some of my exposure from that website. That's how online magazines grow, by people saying, I want to contribute my content through your distribution network, and then you just serve as like a moderator. I think somebody was going to give some feedback over here.
You're looking for like a social media management platform. So you need like something like Hootsuite where you can just.
Well, she's talking about the blog.
Let me say, I know we're out of time. Let me just say this. I don't know what platform your website is on, but I would look into a functionality to where you can have submissions submitted to the website, and all you have to do is moderate it, and that function will then take that content and put it where it needs to go on the website.
Right.
That'll save you a whole bunch of time.
But if you hire a virtual assistant, the content's not going to do anything
Yeah.
for your business.
You need, like you said, contributors, people who want to be bloggers, up and coming, and don't have time to build out the website. You've already done all the sweat equity work. They just need a place to post. Those are the type of people you're looking for.
Content creators.
No, you create accounts for them. So what's
Yeah.
your website on? Oh, okay, yeah. So talk to us afterwards. We'll talk to you.
Well, does anybody else have any questions? Real quick? No?
A little bit.
Like, when you start getting clients, what do you do with the money?
Say it again, I didn't hear.
What's the best investment to start making with your money once you start getting your clients?
What's the best investment?
To make with the money once you start getting your clients.
How old are you? 21?
20,
20. When are you going to be 21?
August 10.
Okay, cool. Go for a drink, man. I'm just kidding. No. That was a joke, but have fun. Because what I see some people do is, like, they focus so much on a business that it ends up burning them out. You should be excited. You should be building your business to be able to have a certain lifestyle.
Right.
And so the more you can pay yourself first, that's great. But of course, if there's certain things you need to reinvest in, you know you have to make more money. So anything that you spend your money on, make sure that it's growing or scaling your business. But of course, make sure that you're scaling along with it. So, I mean, I wouldn't put more money back into like advertising and stuff like that. If there's something that you can automate or a tool you can buy or something like that, then I would invest in that. But otherwise, shoot, go for a drink. In August.
Yeah, have fun and invest back into the business.
Yeah, that's
Have
exactly
fun
what I was
and
thinking.
invest back into the business. You know, there are 12 months in a year. Just because August was a good month doesn't mean that September is going to be either. You know, make sure you balance your checkbook out. You know, you balance out. You create a calendar that says here are all the things that are happening, and if your business is focused on what's happening in the world or society, you know, this is coming up, I might want to do some advertising, or this really cool tool is coming out, you might want to experiment with it. You, like in your life, you want to have a savings, you want to have some sort of net that allows you to do something, or you know, go somewhere, have fun and invest.
You know what type of advice I'm gonna give you.
If I may as well, I mean, this might seem like common sense, and I'm just throwing in my 2 cents in it. Be a good person. I know we're in school, and I know we're thinking we're making a lot of money moves, but be mindful of how you are treating people here, because these are going to be the same people that might sign your checks or might be your designer or who you can hire later. So be a good person all the time, not just sometimes, not just to your closest friends. Be a good person, because it's gonna be when you're down in that, you had your social media agency is tanking, and that person you were actually respectful to and good to is like, you know what, I got you. How much you need? 50K? Because I trust you, because you built value for me, because you helped me out, because you weren't a jerk, because you didn't look at me crazy and just tell me about myself, because you thought you were cool, because you were, you know, got some new J's on, and your Beats by Dre's are really fly. All that stuff, I'm just saying, all this stuff, people don't forget how you make them feel. They might not remember what you did, but 10 years later, you're asking for that investment, and you don't even recognize because they cut their hair, got a wig on, hairpiece, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm not signing no checks for this guy. And you don't even know why you're not getting those investments. So that's for all of you guys as students, because, you know, like I said, we think we're already in the industry. this is where it begins. So please be mindful of every move you make and every person you screw, because if it happens here, it's gonna come back and find you in the industry. So, that's just my 2 cents.
No, that's
And news travels fast.
and especially if you're gonna be a social media, like it's very easy to get a bad rep. And rep is big when it comes to you doing other people's work, Everybody in this room is gonna be the person that's gonna say, hey, you know what, I have a client for you, I have a tip. Like when I first started my business, and this is going back to something you asked initially, I started off doing websites. So people were like, Mike, I need a website, Mike, I need a website. I built over 100-something websites in a year. Like I was building a ton of websites. Then it was, Mike, I need marketing. So then I started to get a lot of marketing referrals. Now the phone calls I get is Mike, I started a business. I don't know what you do. Why? Sally told me to call you. So that's like reputation. Like so being a good person, when you are investing or you're pouring yourself into people, trust me, everybody will see it and they'll be comfortable giving you referrals. They'll be comfortable introducing you to. I mean, today I was sitting with the owner of Dexter's and Blackfin and some other big companies. I mean, you wouldn't get the opportunity to have those meetings if you're not a good person. So people know your heart.
I absolutely love when someone comes back around and I get to sit in front of them and have really good conversations, especially working in this industry where we have an election cycle every other year. So those same people populate those same vendors, same communications directors, same field organizers who know that this is like this year's an election year. It's a big year. They know stuff's coming up. They know Jasmine's gonna be sitting on a pot of money to get ready to start hiring some folks. And I know you all showed out a year ago. Let's have a conversation this year. Let's talk about what you did. Let's reevaluate. I love when we have those come back around sort of conversations and we talk about where you've been. But I will also say in my industry, I've only had to sell myself to 2 people, sell my products and my services, because it's all been through referrals. I've never had to go on a website and put in a full application and wait for someone to call me back. It's been, hey, we heard that you can do X, Y, and Z, and you did really good at it. You left a great impression. Can you continue? And I've been able to hire more African American women to work in this industry, to transition out of their current jobs into this job. And the one thing I say to them every single time is, if you don't do well, when this is all over, you don't know me. Because I still have to work in this industry, and I know that I will do well in this industry. I know that what my product is good, and all of them have done well. Haven't had any issues. They're continuing and thriving in this work, but they know we have that serious conversation. So you definitely have to be nice and do well, no matter how crappy some of the situations are. There are ways to change those, because they always come back around.
Let me just tag onto that too. Is that on the technical or website side of things, and the marketing side of things, the best time get reviews. As soon as you complete a project or you sell something or whatever, and you've given it over to them, get them to give you a review, whether it's via email. Better yet, have them write your review. If you have a physical business that's on Google, or if you have a digital business, if you have a Facebook page, have them write your review. Those metrics, by having those numbers organically, will get you a better search result, or I guess I'd say a better SEO score when it comes to somebody looking for your product or service. Because a lot of people now are searching for products and services on Facebook before they even get to Google, because they're already there, they're seeing the ads. So have that, and the other reason why too is because they're preferencing social media sites like Facebook and Google. They're preferencing those that are paying more than those that are not. So the way to kind of leverage that is by having the reviews on there and having those reviews coming in on a regular basis. If it's every week, if it's every couple of days, or whatever that it is. But the best time to ask for a review is right when they're happy because they've received whatever the product or service that it is. They're euphoric. Get them to do a review to right then.
There's gonna be a lot of exclamation points.
That's fine. That's all great. But get them to do it. Get them to post it somewhere and make it easy for them to do.
So we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up so you guys can answer one time with the students, whatever. Do you mind telling them where they can find you on social media?
You can find me on both Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Chicks, CHICKS, the letter N, politics. So Chicks and Politics. It's also info@chicksandpolitics.com. If you need to email me, but I'm on all 3 of those platforms, you can find me there.
You can go to my website, MikeFelix.com, MikeFelix. That has my phone number, email address, my calendar, all my social media links and what I did.
You can find me everywhere at JP Design Theory. That's all my handles, from anywhere from Snapchat all the way down to Facebook and Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. And
Lastly, my usual final note, if you reach out to these guests and they tell me y'all out here wilding or playing, you're gonna have some problems. So please have things together because, you know, they're here on the strength of just me asking and they're doing me a huge favor. And I want them to come back a couple more times. I want them to engage with more students in the future that will be coming here months after you guys graduate. So if you do reach out, be respectful, check the grammar on the emails, you know, ask them, have somebody else read it. Just come at these professionals in the right way. So they're not saying, hey, I'm not coming back to your events anymore to serve future students because your current students don't know how to act. So appreciate it.
Thank you all.
So we'll do a group photo in the front and then we'll just hang out and kick it in the meantime for everybody. This is the front, by the way.
yeah, thank you.
Showing home so much.
Of course. Thank you.